Hey guys, and welcome to this early access Patreon video for the Final Down NFL podcast with myself, Jim, and Punk Raider. This is a series that we're looking to start doing. We've been talking about it for a while, but the idea is we're going to go and revisit and break down some of the biggest plays and games in NFL history. We're starting with the one that was voted number one all-time play, and that, of course, is the Immaculate Reception.
No.
Very important for
The
myself and for Punk.
immaculate. It's not
different
the
reasons.
Immaculate Reception.
what
It's
it's
not
called.
a reception. It doesn't matter what it's called. It's not a reception.
Well,
It's
we'll
an
get into that.
incomplete pass.
We'll get into that later, Punk. It clearly was, because that's how the game finished.
Clearly an incomplete pass.
Before we get into the play itself, we've got to give some background. Obviously, this is happening on the 23rd of December, 1972. It is
That's even before I was born.
I was going to ask what your recollections of the game, but you've just
well, yeah. Recollection of the game is that it happened. I might,
yeah. So yeah, this was the AFC divisional playoff game between the then Oakland Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The winner of who would go through to play the Miami Dolphins in the championship game. This was the second playoff game ever for the Steelers. We'd only been in the playoffs once before that in 1947, which gives you some sort of indication of how bad we were. We got shut out by the Philadelphia Eagles in 47 as well. So that's quite a feat to have been that bad.
Wow.
Yeah, we were fairly terrible. I mean, 1969, we went 1-13, which was then the season we were able to pick up Terry Bradshaw first overall in the draft. And we signed Chuck Noll as our head coach. So 3 years in, we're starting to build the personnel up, and this was the first time we'd finally had a properly good season. I think we finished 11-3, and the Raiders have finished 10-3
and 1.
10-3 and 1. So you were half a game off, but we were both behind the Dolphins, so we had to play each other for the chance to play them in the playoffs. For yourself, Punk, John Madden wasn't just getting royalty checks from EA Sports. He was actually a manager in this game for the Raiders.
He was the head coach. So, I mean, you mentioned a little bit there about the Steelers' history. The Raiders were the cream of the crop at this point. They'd been to the playoffs 5 of the last 6 years. Obviously, in 1967, just after the merger, they won the AFL championship, which was the old AFC championship, before losing in the Super Bowl to the Packers. Vince Lombardi's Packers. Following 3 seasons, they did make it all the way back to the AFC Championship game and always lost the eventual Super Bowl winners. So, Broadway Joe's Jets, the Chiefs, and the Colts.
Baltimore Colts.
At that time, Baltimore Colts. Yeah. Kansas City was still Kansas City. But Baltimore were the Colts. So this actually we'd missed the playoffs the season before this year in 71. So this was kind of a bit of a rebuilt team, although we still had a lot of the kind of what I'd call Hall of Fame players from around that era still there. There were quite a few younger players as well. So we still had Fred Biletnikoff and Kenny Stabler and Gene Upshaw. Just some names that people might recognize. Obviously, Jim Otto, Art Shell as well, who later became a Raiders head coach. So at this point we were kind of like, I suppose the easiest way to kind of liken what this was the start of, and this game in particular, is if people remember the kind of 49ers Cowboys rivalries in the playoffs from the kind of early mid 90s, and very similarly, Patriots Colts, when Manning and Brady were going at it every playoff season. That's kind of what this game in particular began for the Raiders and the Steelers throughout the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some may ask why we haven't shown the entire game. Well, the reason is because this game was fairly turgid. No scores in the first half. The biggest play for the Raiders was an 11-yard pass to Biletnikoff. I think there was an interception in there for the.
I think the most interesting thing you can say about the first half of this game is that it ended as a tie. The first half, it just happened to be 0-0.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we skip over that.
Let's not watch the whole game.
No. Third quarter, we managed to get a field goal, so it's 3-0. Start of the fourth. Well, actually, end of the third. Your quarterback at the time, Daryl LaMonica, I believe, threw a second interception and got benched then for Kenny the Snake Stabler, who came in. He fumbled. I think maybe his first possession, he fumbled. That allowed us to get a second field goal. So we were 6-0 up. Then Stabler drives down the field and gets a touchdown to get you into the lead 7-6 after oldest NFL kicker ever, George Blanda, gets it. Well, I think until maybe did Vinatieri beat him for that recently, but I think maybe Blanda was like 50 or something when he finished. It was crazy.
He was ridiculous.
Yeah, you got into the lead 7-6 with just over a minute to play, which then prompted the drive we're looking at now. And unfortunately, we don't have the scroll at the bottom. You don't have any kind of proper gadgets to say what's going on here. But what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen,
you mean I haven't got a telestrator? I can't draw on the screen and
don't know what the score is.
Go, boom!
But it's 7-6 to the Raiders. It is on the Steelers' 40-yard line. We have 22 seconds remaining, and it is 4th and 10. And the Steelers have no timeouts left. So in many ways, this is the ball game here. The Steelers need to get the first down, and they need to stop the clock as well, because they have to either get out of bounds or get a completion and spike it as quickly as possible. But even that is a tall order. So that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at basically the game, and Chuck Noll decides to call 66 circle option as a passing play. And what that's
seriously, you went and learned the play name. Oh, yeah. Wow.
What that is designed to do is to get one of the receivers, Barry Pearson, just over the first down marker. And then he's supposed to cut out to the right to then obviously catch the ball and run out of bounds, stop the clock, get them at least 15, 20 yards closer to pay dirt. What we're going to see here is that not work. So I'm going to start this play.
I think before you start the play,
all right,
I think it's important to point out that back in the 1970s, the NFL wasn't like it was today.
No.
You very, very rarely saw 3, 4, 5 receiver sets. It was all about the running game. You know, if your quarterback was throwing 12 of 16 for 140 yards and a touchdown, that was a decent day. That was a good day.
Yards were hard to come by.
Exactly. It was, you know, forget all this. This is proper old school football. This is, you know, there's no flags for horse collars or taunting or any of that. You know, these are some of the hardest guys to have ever played the game that are on the field right now, and they used to go at it.
Yeah. Oh, I should also say, if you didn't remember who Barry Pearson is, then you've probably joined about 75% of the crowd on the day, because this was Barry Pearson's first ever NFL start. So he hadn't played an NFL game before this. But on 4th down, Chuck Noll has called his number as the guy they're going to supposedly pass this ball off to. So we're going to start the play. And
basic 4-3 defense.
7-step drop, first of all. So 7-step drop there for Bradshaw. The whole point of this play is he needs to wait until Pearson gets far enough down the field to get past the first down marker before he can then make his cut. So he's gone 7 steps back. Looks okay so far, right?
Just now we've got a 4-man rush from the Raiders.
Now we've got a problem because Klein and Jones and the linebacker blitz have just come in. So basically what John Madden's thought is, well, this is the game and I'm going to sack you before you get a chance to get anywhere near throwing this ball. So I love how our Steelers O-line is perfectly positioned here to stop anyone from getting to Bradshaw, except the 2 people that go around the side of him. They are completely oblivious to the danger that Terry Bradshaw is in right now. But as you can see, he is.
You know, concussion protocol was not a thing, so I'd hate to think what their heads felt like at about this point in this game, to be honest.
Yeah. So at this point, he's got 2 linebackers bearing down on him, and he realizes that Pearson hasn't made his cut yet, so he cannot throw this ball. So he has decided to roll out to the right. Is he there? Well, for whatever reason, he has decided he cannot throw this ball anymore to Pearson. So he's now looked back left, and he has found John Frenchie Fuqua, a guy that he targets a lot more as a receiver. It's before Lynn Swan, so there's no guaranteed target there to hit downfield. So he's looked back, and what Fuqua has done is very similar to what the route Pearson was running, but he ran from the left hash and he's now cutting into the middle of the field. So, okay, he hasn't got much time to make this throw, but he's got to make it anyway because it's the ball game if he gets tackled now. So he's now looking about 25, 30 yards down the field towards Fuqua, who's cutting in again to the right. And he's got to make one little more jump now. And then here comes the pass. So not the quickest pass in the world. It's a bit of a floater, but it is designed to hit Fuqua in stride. Now, one thing to say about Johnny Fuqua is he had tried a 4th down conversion earlier in the game, a 4th and 2, and it was broken up by Jack Tatum. And lo and behold, the football gods decide that that's going to be exactly what happens here. Johnny Fuqua reaches out for it, and Jack Tatum, again, defensive back for the Raiders, absolutely steamrollers into that reception window. And to say he breaks up the play is an understatement because the ball
I think
now...
he broke Fuqua as well, didn't he, on that play?
Look what happens to Fuqua. I mean, he goes Superman sideways and gets laid out. That is perfect timing from Tatum. I mean, you know, we've seen plays in the NFL
bang,
before where
off you go.
Defensive backs have just hit perfectly timing. I mean, there's no chance of pass interference, not even just because it was the 70s, but, you know, even then, that was a perfect breakup, and the ball has now gone sailing back towards the O-line. Yeah, far as everyone's concerned, the game's over. Fuqua is still flying back through the air. But there's a slight problem, and that is that Franco Harris, who started off blocking on the play, has now gone into that no man's land between Bradshaw and Fuqua, and the ball has gone sailing back towards him. He has scooped it and is now heading off past Phil Villapiano. There's a little stiff arm there on Jimmy Warren. And that is the first ever touchdown in the playoffs by the Steelers to take the lead with just a few seconds remaining. Absolutely goes crazy. As you can see, it takes about 15 minutes to get everyone off the field after this.
Oh,
there is a long break. There's a long break where the officials get together and talk about this play because they're not sure who it hit. Now, obviously, the rules now are a bit different as well. So the first big controversy here is who hit this ball when it came out. If it hits Fuqua's hands, then it's an incomplete pass because the rule then was that if you've touched the ball as an offensive player, you can be the only one that finishes the play, basically. Whereas obviously now you can back pass it to someone else, you keep the play going like the Miami Miracle, that kind of thing. But back then there was no allowance for Fuqua to have touched the ball and kind of knocked it backwards towards Harris. So there's the first big controversy. Did Jack Tatum hit it or did John Fuqua hit it?
It's very clearly Fuqua. When you see it now, you'll see it now in a second. Yeah. There's the roll. Here comes the throw. Wobbly duck. Look at it. It's horrible. Who'd have thrown that?
Like I said, it's not the fastest ball, but that plays into my my defense of this play. So
the first thing, like you were saying, the first thing to look at is whose hands touch the ball.
Yeah. Oh, it's agonizing. Well, right there, it looks like a shoulder pad of Jack Tatum is hitting that.
It's not there. That's the question. Keep it going. Next frame. And again. Oh, look where the ball bounces back to. It then hits the shoulder of Fuqua.
It's come out. It may well have hit Fuqua as well.
Because it's now literally flying horizontally back the way it came from.
Yeah. So there is no way that Fuqua could have knocked that on his own. Either it's just hit Tatum, or it's hit Fuqua and Tatum's momentum.
It's hit Tatum as exactly. So my interpretation of it is it's hit Tatum probably in the shoulder because the shoulder pads back then were just like blocks of brick, basically
bigger than Dynasty.
Yeah, exactly. And then as it's hit Tatum, it's then hit Fuqua and gone flying off his shoulder pad as well. Yeah, which is my theory. Obviously, right. we don't have 4K HDR technology on this to be able to pixel it to death. But anyway, keep going.
I think you're probably right. I mean, what the rule is after that is a bit more murky because once the defenders hit it, it's then open. So it could benefit Fuqua, and it's still okay for Harris to catch the ball after that.
Yeah.
a bit like with a fumble recovery. So
yeah, similar. Yeah, similar.
So there's that. Now I think you're right. I think it's hit Tatum with that force, and it's probably hit Fuqua because he's so close, and it's got a bit more trajectory up because it's hit Fuqua. Now, obviously, Tatum has come out and said that it was just Fuqua, didn't touch me at all.
Of course he has. Same
said
as
that
Brad.
He'll never tell. So he said he knows what happened. He'll never tell.
Fairly good indication that he touched it.
Exactly.
Let's be honest.
This angle doesn't show us the next controversy, which is the scoop by Franco Harris, because there were those that then said it definitely bounced off the turf before Harris grabbed it. Now this angle, this is the other angle.
Hello, we got multiple angles.
The only other angle we've got, Punk, but we have got this goal line angle, which I think tells us a lot. So here's Pearson. So here's the original play. Where
look at the coverage downfield. It's amazing. It's just everyone sticking to their job, doing their job. Yeah. I mean, those guards and tackles, the bars they have on their face masks is just hilarious.
Yeah. But this is the first part we were talking about. So here's Pearson finally coming in. Oh, geez, I've done it again.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I always press the wrong button. Sorry. So here's Pearson coming into play, but you can see by this point, the linebackers weren't supposed to be there, and they've already spooked Bradshaw into moving. So he was looking after that 7-step drop for Pearson to come in and make this throw. He's felt the pressure from Klein and Jones, and he has now gone, I cannot stay here. Doesn't matter what Pearson's doing. I've got to break out of here. And now, again, at this point, I think if you were like Patrick Mahomes or someone, you'd probably have gone for this. You'd probably have slung it, sidearm to 25 yards down the field, whatever it takes. But there is a window here where Bradshaw may have been able to make this throw, but he doesn't. He decides to cut back left. Now
one of the things about Bradshaw is that he had really good pocket presence. Yeah, I mean, there are an awful lot of quarterbacks in the 70s that would have had two defensive linemen come bearing down on them like that and would have just folded up and said, "Thank you very much." To Bradshaw's credit, he was always he was very like Aaron Rodgers. He could slide, he could move, he was never the quickest, he was never the most athletic, but he could just feel when someone was there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now he's gone back across. So we're going to see another angle of, although the goalpost does try to get in the way.
The goalpost again gets in the way. It's
more more conspiracy theories here for the Raiders.
This play is just ridiculous. But there you go. There's Fuqua's hand going in, touching the ball. Play's dead.
Here's where the ball comes back. And now, if we just cycle it on.
So at this point, of course, there you go. Raiders are sitting there going, well, that's it. Game over. We've won. Thank you very much. We're off to the Super Bowl.
You can see
bottom of the screen, just
20 has already put his hands up to go, yes, it's all over. But look at this. The ball, this is completely uncontroversial, I believe. It has not hit the ground.
Incontrovertibly, it hits the ground in the next frame.
It does not. Look.
There you go. Just there. It's hitting the ground.
Come on.
His hands are there, but he's trapping the ball. He's trapping the ball with the ground.
He is not. His arms aren't that far down. Look, it's his knees.
His arms don't have to be that far down. He's got the ball. He's grabbed the back end of the ball. His knees bent.
The knees bent
the one thing to say is 1972 TV technology. The actual point of impact that we would like to be able to see is obscured by the goalpost. It's amazing. It's amazing. But this is kind of what created the mystique and kind of made plays like this that made me interested in the NFL, because you always, when you're a kid, you read about something or you see something on TV, you go, that's interesting, I'm going to go and find out more about that. And the more you dig and you kind of come across plays like this, or there's an interview with Bradshaw, isn't there, where he says, I'm pretty certain the ref went and watched a replay before giving it, and there was a TV monitor hooked up in the baseball bunker somewhere, and
which that's not true.
And it's like, I mean, come on, but all these, absolutely. But all these conspiracy theories that come out because you don't have 24 cameras everywhere and so on and so forth. It's just great. It's fantastic. And you'll never convince me that was a reception ever. ever, ever, ever.
You
The
know what?
ball
Do you know
hit.
what convinces me? You know what convinces me, Punk? All right, you can say what you like about that, but no one else on the pitch or the official that's down here at the bottom of the screen do anything to indicate it was an incomplete pass. When Franco grabs it, no one here acts like it was incomplete. And I would expect them to say that hit the ground, they wouldn't complete the play. But look at them, all of them.
Quite clearly, we're celebrating. It's only when all of a sudden everyone goes, "Oh no, he's still running. Why is he still running? Hang on, what's going on?"
There were people watching the play. Officials
reaction.
were watching it all the way through, and they did not say that was a drop.
I think there has to also be pointed out that at this time in NFL history, the Oakland Raiders were not necessarily the commissioner's favorite team.
They've never been the commissioner's favorite team.
Yeah, exactly.
This has nothing to do with the commissioner. This is now conspiracy theory 101.
Well, here we go.
Because this was the first ever Steelers postseason touchdown.
This was.
And yeah, the aftermath of this
took you to your first Super Bowl.
It didn't, because we faced the Dolphins in the championship game, and that was
the championship game?
Yeah, Super Bowl 7. So no, we hit the buzzsaw. We only lost, but it was 21-17 was the final score in that game. But the Dolphins did go on to then win the Super Bowl undefeated. They still celebrate that to this day.
They do.
The next season, we faced each other again.
Well, we faced you then for about 4 seasons, didn't we?
Yeah, 4 in a row.
3 or 4 seasons in a row.
This started a proper rivalry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was either in what's now called the divisional round or the championship game every single season. So, you know, the ramifications from this game, I liken it very much more to the kind of 49ers Cowboys thing, because you won about 3 on the bounce, and it was just the Raiders couldn't get over the hump of the Steelers, very much like the 49ers under Steve Young couldn't get over the hump of the Cowboys with Troy Aikman. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, eventually, we do win one.
So yeah, in 73, we played each other again, and you won that one and got through to the Super Bowl, lost. Then in 74 and 75, we beat you and we win the Super Bowl back to back. And then 76, you win against us, and you then go and win the Super Bowl.
Correct.
So, and the only time we faced each other since then was 1983 in LA. You beat us and won the Super Bowl again. So,
and won the Super Bowl.
We have to go through each other if we want to win the Super Bowl, basically. The Steelers won another 2 in the 70s, so that was 4 in 6 years to cement their kind of status at the time. So, but this was the turning point for the Steelers. Like I said, before that, in the 40 years basically that the Steelers have been around, they'd only had a record over 500 9 times. In like 39 years, we've had 30 seasons of losing record. Since then, since the merger, we've only had 9 seasons where we haven't had a winning record.
And to a degree, it's been almost the exact opposite for us. In that, you know, all the way through the merger and the 70s and even the early mid 80s when I started watching, you know, the Raiders were always there or thereabouts. And then ever since 2002, I think we've made the playoff 3 times. That Tampa Bay Super Bowl, where, you know, we forgot to change our play calls when our ex-head coach is on the other side, which was really sensible, you know, for a Super Bowl with 2 weeks to prepare. Yeah, anyway, enough of that game. But our kind of drought time has happened since then. So in the last 20 years. But, you know, things are looking better now. Things are turning the corner.
You still don't let this game go, though, I see.
I know, mate, this is like the tuck rule. This is one of those plays like the tuck rule play that you will never, ever convince me that was a reception. Ever.
It clearly was a reception.
It clearly wasn't. He clearly trapped the ball on the ground with his hands to pick it up.
No.
He did. He absolutely
did. The odds of that
did.
are even more minuscule if you look at it.
No, they're not. They're not. Think how often an interception's now overturned or a catch is overturned because the ball is touching the ground as the player catches it. It's absolutely, there's just no way on this. I mean, just leave it to run. It's I mean, I hate seeing this, but
Well,
I mean, you can even
hands under
see
it.
it. It
He's got it.
bounces. Hands are not under it. At most, he's got the point of the ball at the top, which means the bottom part of the ball is touching the ground. There's no way he caught that. But the great thing, and this is, one of the good reasons to look back at plays like this is that, we can't disprove it one way or the other. Let's be honest. It is a piece of history. It's nice to kind of go back and have a bit of a conflab about it and an argument about it, and everyone will have their own opinions. I mean, I'm sure if you showed this to Dave, he'd probably pick it up straight away as an incomplete pass, but who knows?
Well, he does love AFC West teams apart from the Chiefs, so
there we go.
Yeah,
but
one other side note about the game ball. The game ball was taken by a Steelers fan in the ensuing melee that happened after the extra point that won the game. I think a guy, was it Jim Baker, I think was his name? He went there with his nephew and he tried to sell it back to the Steelers for lifetime season tickets. And they said,
that's
no.
Fair.
I know, yeah. So
come on.
He's now got it. He's now got it in a vault in the bank somewhere. And I think someone tried to offer him the highest number was 150 grand for the ball, and he won't give it. So there you go. The guy that gave Tom Brady's 400th passing touchdown obviously got it cheap, but that's what you can do with it.
Let's be honest. To a Steelers fan, this is probably $1 million ball. The ball that the Immaculate Incomplete Pass was done with, as it is up there in Steeler folklore. And like you said, this is kind of the game that propelled you to start winning Super Bowls and actually becoming a championship team. So that ball is really the start of all of it.
I mean, this was Harris's first season. He was a rookie in this year, but I'll
be honest, I'm amazed this ball is not in the Hall of Fame, because I would have thought the Hall of Fame would have been going in and going, here's $2 million.
They won't give him the money he wants, obviously. I don't know what he's asking.
No, obviously not. If the highest offer so far has been 150 grand, I'm not sure I'd do it for that either, to be honest.
Surely they could just buy the season tickets for him. That'd be cheaper than $1 million or something,
You'd have thought so.
Must be getting on now anyway. So, but yeah. But that's just a side note. Like, it was a turnaround for our team, but it was nice that it started off a rivalry between the Raiders and the Steelers that worked all the way through the 70s. And it started our dynasty, basically. This was the start of something after being absolutely just the worst. I mean, you're talking about the Browns now or something, or even the Lions, I mean, we went 0-10 back in the 40s. We went 1-13 in 1969. So just 3 years before this, we went 1-13. We were referred to as the Carpets because of our term as the Card Pit team. I think I'd rather walked over all the time.
I think I'd rather be the Carpet than the Aints. Remember the Aints?
Yeah,
the Saints when they first started out, they were called the Aints.
Yeah, and the Yucks and the Bungles and
there've been loads of them, haven't there? Popsicles, Tampa Bay popsicles, brilliant, just melt in the heat. But
there you go, guys. So that was our breakdown of the Immaculate Reception, as it is officially known. We'll be doing some more of these. If you are watching this officially on Patreon, then thank you very much for joining us. If you aren't and you want to, then go to patreon.com/finaldown, and we'll be sure to put more of these in the future. But thank you very much. Until next time, I've been Jim, and that's been Punk Raider. Cheers.
Incomplete.
Touchdown.